And so we know that if we have our stops memorized, the next stop up is 5-6. And then the next stop after that is F8. So that's how you get the 2 stops there. Okay? And so, right, like when we talk about f-stop, some of you might not know this, but what happens is that f-stop is a kind of like a diaphragm. It's a hole that lets light into your camera. Okay? So the higher the number, the smaller the hole. Okay? The lower the number, the bigger the hole. So we're bringing up that number from F4 to F8, 2 stops, and that will diminish the light into the sensor. Does that make sense to you guys?
So, and specifically just because so many people thought that 1/250th at F4 was the correct answer. Maybe you could talk about exactly why that is the wrong.
Right? Thinking that you would think that way. So they're trying to limit that amount of light. Okay, as I said before, there is no ambient light in this picture. We're not controlling any ambient light. All this light is created with your flash only. So they may be thinking that there's light around to let in, but there's actually no light to let in. It's completely dark. I mean, all the light is generated by your flash in this particular situation. But we'll get into that mix of between ambient light and flash and all that kind of, how that works together a little bit later. So that's why that's the natural choice. It's because they're going, okay, well, if I increase my shutter 2 times, if I double it to 120, right, that's 1 stop. And then if I double it again, 120 times 2 is 240, but that's close to 250. They don't have 240 on the camera, but they do have 250. Then, okay, well, then that's 2 stops. Well, does that make sense to people? And that's why F8 is the only way. So, what is that? 186,000 miles per second.
Speed of light.
That's the speed of light. That's why you can't, you know, your fastest shutter speed is like molasses compared to the speed of light. Right? You're not going to control light with shutter. It's instantaneous. Right? The time, let's say I'm firing a flash, right? I'm taking a picture of Priscilla. It's going, 6 feet there, 6 feet back. How long does that take light to go 12 feet when it goes 186,000 miles per second? It's instantaneous, right? And so you can't control light with your shutter. You can with the f-stop by making the hole smaller or larger, but you can't do it with your shutter. And so we talked a little bit about flash X sync. So when you're shooting manual, I said, in order to expose that sensor, your shutter has to fully expose it. Is that not correct? Well, certain cameras, they have what they call X sync. Does anybody know what X sync is? All cameras talk about X sync. X sync is the fastest shutter speed allowed to shoot your camera in manual flash. And in general, does anybody know that number? 250 for most cameras. Is that correct? And so when you're using flash, you can't go above 2/50th of a second, or else it will not be in sync, and when you fire flash, you're going to get that strip on the bottom, that shadow across your sensor. Does that make sense to you guys?